Hey everybody, welcome back to the Build Show. Steve Basic here. And today, we're shooting video from the garage. So, what is there to talk about in the garage? Well, you can see here, we've insulated our walls. And we've done that with a blown cellulose product. If I spin around here, we can get right here. You can see, beautiful job. We'll throw them a bone, mass green insulation. They do a beautiful job. You see the little ports there where they stuck the hose in. If you've seen some of my other videos, you can see there's the pocket header. So we sprayed that with foam. But today we're really going to concentrate on the floor above. So you can see here we have that first line there. Those are our floor joists. They frame into that large beam there. Then we have our ceiling strapping. Well, we blow in our cellulose in there, and then we finish it with 2 inches of rigid insulation across the bottom. Now, the insulation in the joist bay, certainly, that provides really nice thermal comfort, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't thermally break that floor system from this cold garage space here to the warm space up above. So to do that, you'll see here, we install this 2-inch rigid insulation here that now becomes the thermal break below that. And then the guys, they'll strap that. We'll run our 5/8 inch Type X gypsum wall board, and we'll have a nice finished, well-conditioned garage. But more importantly, the space up above will be nice and warm, and your feet won't get cold because we have that thermal break there. So let's jump back to the studio. We'll bust out this detail and we'll look at it in detail. See you back at the studio. Hey everybody. Hope you enjoyed that quick tour out there. Jim and the guys at Shoreline Builders doing an awesome job. Love working with those guys. It's got a beautiful project we're doing down there. But more importantly, it's going to perform as good as it looks. So you saw that insulation that we were putting in there, basically wrapping the underside of the floor, treating that floor like it was an exterior wall, right? Because for all intents and purposes, it pretty much is. Instead of being vertical, it's just a wall on the flat. So anyways, I broke out the detail. We got my good friend here, Big Red. We're going to have at that detail and extend this discussion. So let's have at it. All right, everybody. So printed out this detail from the drawing set. Got Big Red. Get ready for action. So let's talk about orientation first. There's the rim board. See here, that's the bottom of the floor joist, top of the floor joist. It's our subfloor in there. It's the top cord, bottom cord, bottom plate of the wall above, double top plate, the wall below. One of the things that should be jumping out at you is the fact that this is inside, this is outside, this is inside, this is outside. Notice that between inside and outside on the wall, we have a cavity, we have rigid, and then we have a sheathing. All right. So if we look here and we have in and out, in this detail across here, we have a cavity, very similar. We have rigid, very similar, and we have a sheathing, very similar. All right. So basically what I'm saying is that wall is potentially, or that floor is just like our exterior wall inside and out. Now, granted, it's a lot thicker because the framing member and cavity provides us with a much larger cavity, so we can put more insulation in there. But the reality is they're very identical in concept anyway, not an actual number. So that being said, in here you can see we have an 11 7/8 inch joist. Blown cellulose, I use a 3.8 R per inch. So that's going to yield right around 45.6. And then we have the 2 inches of polyiso here, and that's typically rated at about R 6.5 per inch. So that gives us 13. So that 13, 45.6 gives us 58.6 for our R value across that assembly there. Now, it's, this is a pretty typical detail that I use above garages, just like the outside, where the continuous insulation is called for, because it basically puts on a sweater or a continuous layer of thermal insulation outside the framing member. So it benefits not only the cavity, but where the framing member is, and that's, say, roughly 5.86 or 4.86, something like that. No, it's a little higher than that. It's got to be 5.86. And getting that polyiso on there it benefits and lifts that R value and almost doubles the R value at the stud, but also enhances the R value at the cavity. So what are we trying to do here? Well, we don't want this outside edge of that floor joist to be outside. We don't want it touching the outside, because then we have this thermal break to the inside where we're going to lose heat via the floor framing member. So we come in, we put in this 2-inch sweater here, and that is that R13 continuous, and you saw in the video there that that's continuous over all of the floors. So we've basically put the floor joist in, we've blown in our cellulose to the tune of 45.6, but then we come and we cover the whole underside with, you got it, one of my favorite words, continuous insulation. Right? And that runs all the way across that floor. So it provides that thermal continuity, that thermal break that doesn't go in between the joists. It actually goes underneath the joist, and it goes in a continuous fashion there. So it's very much like, analogous to putting a sweater or sweatshirt on. We don't put it on in strips. We put the whole sweatshirt or whole sweater around our body to stay nice and warm. We zip it up, and we call it a day. Well, we wrapped this in a sweater, and then we zipped it up, and we called it a day. So there's not a whole lot to it. There's not a lot of magic. It's, we have that running joke of in the building science world that it's not rocket science, it's building science. It is that simple. And I'll leave you with one of my favorite lines. Continuity is key. All right, get that thermal continuity there. On the flip side, I know I said I was going, but let me throw this out at you too. With all these tape joints, and I think I called for it polyisocyanurate tape all joints. So I do have that in there. That adds to what I would call the tortuous path of air leakage. So the cellulose is an air permeable insulation. Now, some people might agree with that, some might not. It is hard to blow a ton of air through it, but nonetheless, you can blow some air into it, and if it's does have some voids, that air will migrate around. But the beauty of putting that rigid in is that we close off that bottom of the cavity. It's sealed at the top by the floor sheathing there, so we get that somewhat air-sealed cavity that goes all the way across the garage that, again, from an air tightness perspective, we are inside here and we are outside here. Remember from all my air barrier talks and videos where we talk about those, we always stress the understanding of, are we inside or are we outside in the building? So clearly the garage, even though it's inside the doors, it's inside some wall framing, and we actually even insulated the walls here, so we temper that insulation in the garage. I treat the garage as outdoor space, and I treat it as outdoor space because even though it's insulated, we don't have a heating device in there that's actually conditioning it. So if we did, then it might be a game changer as to whether or not we put that rigid insulation in there. But that's providing that thermal comfort up here. It's also providing some additional air tightness in the assembly. So with that, we'll call it a wrap on this detail. Alrighty, there you have it. Big Red came and conquered. So hopefully you enjoyed that. It's a simple little detail, but it's often overlooked. Little anecdotal story for you. I remember probably about 10 years ago going into a person's house because they had some comfort complaints. And it was cold out. It was the winter time. But we took our shoes off to be polite, and we were walking around the house in the socks. And they had a 3-car garage with a couple rooms over it, all hardwood floors. And I could not walk for more than maybe about 30 seconds over the garage. That floor was so cold. It's like I said, it's a detail that's often overlooked. I also, I don't know, probably about 5 years ago, did a renovation to a house that was probably about 2 years old. Master suite was over the garage. Did you know they put in auxiliary plug-in heaters in the space, and they still could never get the temperature above about 58 degrees in the winter? They were so aggravated. So we had to go in there and tear apart that floor. They just had some bad insulation in there. The wind was blowing through it. Just poorly done. So anyways, hopefully you enjoyed that. If you want more, follow me on Instagram, Steve Basic Architect. I'm there putting up stuff daily. You can go check it out, sharing what I know, sharing what I find out, my day's work. Follow my daughter also, Alexandra Basic. She's putting up stuff all the time. And, you can find me on the Unbuild It podcast. Got my good buddies, Peter and Jake. We're talking it up every other week, so you can find us there. We're on YouTube and Spotify, iTunes, all those places. But if you want to watch the antics, follow us on YouTube. And then lastly, Build Show Network. I know you haven't watched every one of my videos 7 times, and that's what the science says. So have at it. Get on it. Every one of them 7 times if you really want to grasp the content. When you're done with mine 7 times, you got Matt, Jake, Wade, and Brent, and Drywall Shorty, and Mechanical Hub, and Zach Detmore. So we just added 3 more. So you have a whole library of stuff. You get videos from a bunch of us for well over a year. There's tons of stuff to look for. Don't ask me where can I get more information until you've watched all the videos on Build Show Network 7 times. So there you have it. Other than that, all I can say is, let's have at it, and let's try and make tomorrow a little bit better. Long live our buildings.